A group of alleged mobsters now under arrest tonight. Investigators say they managed to pull the whole thing off by posing as construction workers.
Every organization has rules, even mafias and criminal organizations. However, there are a few members within these organizations who did not get the memo and went to do the unthinkable steal from their boss. We all know what that entails, right? Regrets. From the Yakuzas to the American Mafia, we present Mafia members who stole from the Mafia boss himself and the regret that comes after. Tony Accardo. It was a cold, dark January night in the swank Chicago suburb of River Forest. John Mandell, a seasoned burglar at the age of 31, and his partner in crime, Steve Garcia, 29, stood outside a sprawling ranch-style house. The owner, a wealthy individual, was away on vacation in sunny Florida. Little did they know, inside that house lay a fortune in jewelry, worth an estimated $1 million. Mandell and Garcia firmly believed that this jewelry was rightfully theirs, stolen fair and square. They saw this as an opportunity to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. With hearts pounding and adrenaline coursing through their veins, Mandell and Garcia made their move. They crept towards the house, their footsteps muffled by the darkness of the night. The suburban neighborhood seemed peaceful, unaware of the impending chaos that was about to unfold. The gang of jewel thieves had meticulously planned their burglary. They knew that the owner was away, and they believed they could execute their plan without a hitch. Their confidence was bolstered by their previous successful heists, which had earned them a reputation as skilled burglars. Just a month prior, the gang had broken into a vacant building near a police station in Chicago's seedy near North Side. With acetylene torches in hand, they skillfully burned their way into a neighboring jewelry store. Their expertise allowed them to bypass the store's sophisticated burglar alarm using an electronic device. In a matter of minutes, they had made off with over $1 million worth of jewelry, silver, and furs. The police were left baffled by the audacity and precision of the burglary. However, the store's owner, Harry Levinson, proved to be less than cooperative. Detectives on the case were frustrated by his lack of assistance. Little did they know Levinson had connections to a different kind of enforcement business, the Mafia. Levinson, in a desperate attempt to seek justice for his stolen goods, confided in a police informant about his misfortune. This informant happened to have ties to none other than Big Tuna himself, Tony Accardo. Levinson's tale of woe reached the ears of the powerful Mafia boss, who, for reasons of his own, sympathized with the situation. It was a twist of fate that would seal the gang's doom. An order was swiftly issued from River Forest, the territory under Big Tuna's control. The stolen loot must be returned. The gang, fearing the wrath of the Mafia, reluctantly obeyed. They handed over the stolen goods to Accardo, who, according to police and FBI officials, kept them under tight security at his heavily guarded home. However, the gang's discontent grew. They felt they had been dealt an unfair hand, robbed of their hard-earned spoils. Mandell and Garcia, driven by greed and a sense of injustice, hatched a daring plan to break into Accardo's house while he was away in Florida. Their audacity knew no bounds as they sought to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. The night was set for their risky endeavor. With hearts pounding and their nerves on edge, Mandell and Garcia embarked on their mission. The darkness of the night concealed their presence as they approached Accardo's heavily fortified residence. Little did they know, they were about to face the wrath of a man who commanded fear and respect in the criminal underworld. As John Mandell and Steve Garcia infiltrated Accardo's house, the tension in the air was palpable. They were determined to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs, unaware of the grave consequences that awaited them. The darkness of the night shrouded their actions, but little did they know that they were being watched. The details of what transpired inside Accardo's residence remain shrouded in mystery. The police are uncertain whether the gang managed to recover the stolen loot, but they assume they did. Unsurprisingly, Accardo did not file a complaint with the police, and he refused to cooperate when they discovered the burglary. It was clear that the Mafia boss had his own way of dealing with such matters. Just 10 days after the break-in, John Mandell, the leader of the gang, vanished without a trace. Investigators later discovered his lifeless body in the trunk of an Oldsmobile on Chicago's South Side. The scene was gruesome. His arms had been bound, his neck brutally slashed, and a rope tied next to the wound to slow the flow of blood. It was a chilling message, a brutal reminder of the consequences of crossing paths with Big Tuna. The discovery of Mandell's body sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld. It was clear that Accardo's reach extended far beyond the confines of his own residence. The remaining members of the gang, already gripped by fear, knew that their lives were in grave danger. Just weeks later, another member of the gang met a similarly tragic fate. Bernard Ryan, a skilled burglar believed to be associated with the group, was found shot to death in a car in suburban Stone Park. The circumstances surrounding his death were murky, leaving investigators puzzled. It seemed that the shadows of the Mafia were closing in on the remaining members of the gang. 2 weeks after Ryan's death, the body of Steve Garcia, Mandell's partner in crime, was discovered in the trunk of a car at a motel near Chicago's O'Hare Airport. The scene was horrifying. Garcia had been brutally mutilated, his body body bearing the marks of a violent struggle. The details of his demise only deepened the mystery surrounding the gang's ill-fated encounter with Big Tuna. The deaths of Mandell, Ryan, and Garcia were a message to the criminal underworld. The remaining members of the gang were gripped by fear, knowing that their lives hung in the balance. The streets of Chicago became a treacherous landscape, with whispers of Big Tuna's wrath circulating among the criminal fraternity. John McDonald, another jewel thief associated with the gang, was the next to meet a grim fate. His life was cut short when he was shot to death in a North Side alley in April. The circumstances surrounding his death mirrored the brutality of the previous killings. It was clear that the Mafia was sending a chilling message to anyone who dared to cross their path. The investigation into these mysterious deaths proved to be a daunting task for law enforcement. The fear of reprisal from the Mafia hindered their progress, leaving many questions unanswered. The true extent of Big Tuna's involvement remained elusive, but the pattern of violence spoke volumes about the consequences of challenging his authority. The tale of the gang of jewel thieves who stole from Tony Accardo is a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurk in the criminal underworld. Their audacious attempt to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs ended in tragedy, with the lives of 6 members of the gang brutally cut short. The power and ruthlessness of Tony Accardo, the notorious Big Tuna, were on full display, leaving a lasting impact on Chicago's criminal landscape. Willie King. Now we bring you a tale of crime, foolishness, and the clash between an infamous mugger and the powerful Gigante family. Willie King, a man known for his string of petty crimes, found himself at the center of a shocking incident that would forever change his life. Born into a life of poverty and hardship, Willie turned to a life of crime as a means of survival. With a history of theft and drug-related offenses, he had gained a reputation as a small-time criminal in the streets of New York City. But it was on a fateful day in July that Willie's path crossed with the notorious Gigante family. Vincent Gigante, the accused Genovese crime boss, and his mother Yolanda Gigante were taking a leisurely stroll through Greenwich Village when Willie saw an opportunity he couldn't resist. Unaware of the identity of his potential victims, Willie King approached from behind and swiftly snatched Yolanda Gigante's wallet from her housecoat. In a moment of audacity, he made his escape, thinking he had successfully pulled off another petty theft. Little did he know that he had just targeted the mother of one of the most feared crime figures in the city. It didn't take long for Willie to realize the gravity of his mistake. News of the robbery spread like wildfire, and he soon discovered the true identity of the woman he had targeted. Faced with the realization that he had crossed paths with the Gigante family, Willie knew he had to act quickly to make amends. Just 10 days after the incident, Willie King made a surprising decision. He pleaded guilty to grand larceny, fully aware of the consequences that awaited him. His lawyer, Stephen Wershaw, emphasized his client's remorse and desire to put the incident behind him. Willie hoped that by taking responsibility for his actions, he could find some redemption and closure for both himself and the Gigante family. As the courtroom awaited the sentencing, Willie King stood alongside his lawyer, his lanky frame and shaven head a stark contrast to the seriousness of the situation. But his gruff objection to the imposed sentence fell on deaf ears. The court recognized Willie as a repeat offender, with prior felony convictions for stealing a credit card and selling drugs. The judge, acting Justice Mickey A. Scherer, had no sympathy for his pleas and handed down a sentence of 1.5 to 3 years. The robbery of Yolanda Gigante, the mother of Vincent Gigante, shook the very foundation of the Gigante family and the criminal underworld alike. The audacity of Willie King's actions had not only violated their sense of security, but also challenged their reputation as a powerful crime family. While the Gigante family remained silent during Willie King's sentencing, the impact of the robbery was undoubtedly felt. Yolanda Gigante, a 94-year-old woman, had been targeted and violated in a brazen act of theft. The incident shook the family to its core, reminding them that even they were not immune to the dangers lurking on the streets. Vincent Gigante, the accused crime boss, was known for his enigmatic behavior and his ability to evade law enforcement. But this incident brought the criminal activities of the Gigante family into the public eye once again. It was a stark reminder that their power and influence did not make them invincible. As Willie King began his sentence, the Gigante family was left to grapple with the aftermath of the robbery. They had to reassess their security measures and ensure the safety of their loved ones. The incident also served as a reminder to their rivals that the Gigante family was not to be underestimated. For Willie King, the consequences of his actions were now a reality. He found himself behind bars, serving a sentence that he believed to be too harsh. But the court had deemed him a repeat offender with a history of felony convictions. The judge's decision reflected the seriousness of his crimes and the need for justice to be served. As the dust settled, both Willie King and the Gigante family were left to contemplate the impact of this shocking event. Willie hoped that his guilty plea and expression of remorse would help him turn his life around. Meanwhile, the Gigante family sought closure and a return to normalcy. Knowing that the incident had forever changed their perception of safety, the robbery of Yolanda Gigante by Willie King had far-reaching implications within the criminal landscape of New York City. It served as a stark reminder that even the most powerful crime families were not immune to the audacity of small-time criminals like Willie King. The incident highlighted the vulnerability of individuals associated with high-profile figures in the criminal underworld. It sent a message to other criminals that no one was off limits, regardless of their connections or reputation. The Gigante family, known for their influence and power, had been targeted, exposing a crack in their armor. The robbery also drew attention to the larger issue of crime in New York City. It raised questions about the effectiveness of law enforcement in combating street-level criminals and protecting the innocent. The fact that Willie King, a repeat offender with prior felony convictions, was able to target Yolanda Gigante without being deterred by the potential consequences shed light on the challenges faced by the justice system. Furthermore, the incident sparked debates about the role of poverty and desperation in driving individuals like Willie King to a life of crime. It highlighted the need for social and economic reforms to address the root causes of criminal behavior and provide alternatives for those who find themselves trapped in a cycle of poverty and crime. The robbery of Yolanda Gigante by Willie King became a cautionary tale, a symbol of the clash between the powerful and the desperate within the criminal landscape of New York City. It served as a reminder that even the most notorious crime families were not untouchable, and that the consequences of one's actions could have far-reaching implications. Rhode Island Heist. Now, we will delve into the unbelievable details of this audacious robbery that took place in August 1975. These bumbling thieves, led by Robert Dussault and Charles Flynn, targeted a secret bank operated by the Mafia, hidden inside a seemingly innocent furrier shop called Hudson Fur Storage. With minimal security measures in place, the thieves waved their guns and successfully made off with a staggering $30 million in cash, precious metals, and jewels. The heist, sanctioned by local mob boss Raymond L.S. Patriarca, shocked the nation and remains one of the largest hauls in the Northeast's history. Once inside Hudson Fur Storage, the 8 thieves found themselves surrounded by the glimmering treasures of the Mafia's secret bank. The room was filled with 150 safe deposit boxes, each holding a fortune in stolen booty. The thieves couldn't believe their luck as they surveyed the knee-deep piles of gold and silver bars, sparkling jewels, loose coins, and even a jeweled chalice. It was a scene straight out of a Hollywood movie. With their hearts pounding and adrenaline coursing through their veins, the thieves quickly got to work. They knew they had to act fast, as every second increased the risk of getting caught. Despite their lack of preparation, they were determined to make the most of this. Once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the thieves had come armed with guns, which they brandished menacingly to intimidate the employees and any potential witnesses. Barbara Oliva, the unsuspecting apprentice furrier, and her bosses were at their mercy as the thieves demanded access to the vault and the contents of the safe deposit boxes. In the chaos and confusion, the thieves hastily filled their duffel bags with as much loot as they could carry, but their lack of foresight became apparent as they realized they had underestimated the sheer volume of the stolen goods. The room was overflowing with riches, far more than they could ever hope to take with them. Panicking, the thieves scrambled to gather as much as they could, stuffing their bags to the brim. They had forgotten to bring enough duffel bags, and some even neglected to keep their masks on during the heist, exposing their identities to potential witnesses. It was a comedy of errors, but one that would have serious consequences. As the thieves made their way out of Hudson Fur Storage, their bags heavy with stolen treasures, they couldn't help but feel a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. They had successfully pulled off a heist of unprecedented proportions, but they also knew that their haphazard approach had left them vulnerable. Outside the furrier shop, the thieves quickly dispersed, disappearing into the night with their ill-gotten gains. Each of them walked away with approximately $70,000, a substantial sum in those days. But the question remained, what would they do with their newfound wealth? And could they keep their identities hidden from the prying eyes of law enforcement? Meanwhile, the Mafia bank at Hudson Fur Storage was left in disarray. The aftermath of the robbery revealed the extent of the thieves' audacity and the sheer scale of their haul. The local criminals who were aware of the secret bank were astounded by the thieves' daring and cunning. News of the heist spread like wildfire, capturing the attention of the nation. The brazenness of the robbery, coupled with the involvement of the Mafia, made it a story that would be remembered for years to come. The Northeast had witnessed its largest haul, and the thieves had become legends in their own right. But little did they know that their actions would have far-reaching consequences. The stolen loot would become a source of intrigue and mystery, with rumors swirling about its fate and the involvement of the elusive mob boss, Raymond L.S. Patriarca. The story was far from over, and the twists and turns that lay ahead would shock even the most seasoned observers. Behind every audacious heist lies a mastermind, and in the case of the Rhode Island heist, that mastermind was none other than Raymond L.S. Patriarca, the local mob boss. Patriarca's involvement in the robbery added an extra layer of intrigue and danger to an already sensational story. As the leader of the New England Mafia, Patriarca held immense power and influence. He had built a criminal empire that spanned across multiple states, and his control extended to various illegal activities, including gambling, loan sharking, and extortion. The secret bank at Hudson First Storage was just one of the many operations under his watchful eye. Patriarca's decision to sanction the heist was a calculated move. He saw an opportunity to not only replenish his coffers, but also to send a message to his rivals and the law enforcement agencies that dared to challenge his authority. The sheer audacity of robbing a mafia bank would strike fear into the hearts of anyone who dared to cross him. While the thieves were bumbling and ill-prepared, Patriarca's involvement ensured that the heist would be a success. He provided the necessary information, resources, and protection to ensure that the thieves could carry out their plan without interference. The vault's minimal alarm system and the thieves' knowledge of the secret bank were all part of Patriarca's careful orchestration. After the heist, the thieves delivered their share of the stolen loot to Patriarca. Estimates suggest that each participant walked away with around $70,000, a significant sum in those days. But the majority of the stolen goods remained in Patriarca's possession, and he had plans to fence them in Europe, far away from the prying eyes of law enforcement. The aftermath of the heist was filled with tension and uncertainty. The thieves, now in possession of their share of the loot, had to navigate the dangerous world of organized crime. They had to keep their identities hidden, constantly looking over their shoulders for any signs of betrayal or retribution. However, the story took a dramatic turn when a Providence newspaper ran a story on November 2, 1975, claiming that one of the thieves, Robert Dussault, was planning to turn himself in for a hefty sum of $100,000. This news sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld, and Patriarca saw it as a threat to his empire. In response, Charles Flynn, one of the ill-prepared thieves, along with two others, was dispatched to kill Dussault. But fate had a different plan in store. When Flynn came face-to-face with Dussault, the latter managed to convince him that they were being set up. The two thieves realized that their lives were in danger, not only from law enforcement, but also from their own associates. The tension escalated further on New Year's Day of 1976, when Dussault's girlfriend called the police to have him removed from her Las Vegas residence. The police recognized him as a wanted man and took him into custody. During the interrogation, officers lied to Dussault, claiming that Flynn had been murdered by mobsters for not carrying out the hit on Dussault. Fearing for his life and with nothing to lose, Dussault agreed to turn state's evidence. His confession opened the floodgates to what would become the most expensive trial in Rhode Island history. The trial exposed the inner workings of the Mafia and the extent of Patriarca's influence. To the surprise of many, Patriarca managed to escape unscathed. He evaded any charges and reportedly succeeded in fencing the stolen jewels in Europe. It was a testament to his cunning and ability to manipulate the system. While the bumbling thieves stumbled into Hudson Fur, Patriarca pulled off the perfect crime. The consequences for the thieves varied. Flynn was sentenced to life in prison but was released after serving around a decade. He passed away in 2001, leaving behind a legacy of audacity and criminality. Most of the other gang members received minimal sentences or were acquitted, while two more received life sentences. Dussault, on the other hand, entered the Witness Protection Program, but his criminal activities continued. Under an assumed name, Dussault found employment at the Coors Brewing Company. However, his criminal instincts proved hard to suppress. He continued to rob jewelry stores and collectible coin shops, eventually landing back in jail for his infractions. In 1992, he reportedly died of a heart attack while serving his sentence. The Rhode Island heist of 1975 remains a captivating tale of audacity, greed, and the lengths people will go to for wealth and power. It showcases the intricate web of organized crime and the shocking influence of mob bosses like Raymond L.S. Patriarca. The story serves as a reminder that even the most bumbling thieves can stumble upon unimaginable riches, but the consequences can be just as staggering. Yakuza Kota. In the shadowy world of the Yakuza, where honor, loyalty, and violence intertwine, one figure stood out among the rest: Yakuza Kota. With his prematurely white hair and an aura of dignity and gravitas, Kota commanded respect and admiration within the organization. But who was this enigmatic leader, and what role did he play in the complex web of the Yakuza? Kota, whose given name was Jiro Kota, was born into a Korean family living in Japan. From a young age, he was drawn into the world of organized crime, finding solace and purpose within within the Yakuza. As he grew older, Kyoto became deeply involved in the Inagawa Kai, one of Japan's largest and most powerful Yakuza groups. He rose through the ranks, earning the respect and trust of his peers. Within the Inagawa Kai, Kyoto held a position of great influence and authority. He was not only a high-ranking member, but also an elder, revered for his wisdom and experience. Kyoto's role extended beyond mere criminal activities. He was responsible for maintaining order, resolving disputes, and upholding the code of honor that governed the Yakuza world. The Yakuza, often referred to as Japan's Mafia, is not a monolithic organization, but rather a loose network of over 20 criminal groups. The Inagawa Kai, to which Kyoto belonged, was the third largest Yakuza group, boasting approximately 10,000 members at its peak. It operated in various regions of Japan, engaging in a wide range of criminal activities, including extortion, racketeering, and real estate ventures. What set the Yakuza apart from other criminal organizations was its quasi-family structure. Members of the Yakuza swore allegiance to a father figure known as the Oyabun, who provided guidance, protection, and a sense of belonging. Kyoto, with his commanding presence and strong leadership skills, embodied the essence of the Oyabun, earning the loyalty and devotion of his subordinates. The Yakuza world was steeped in tradition and ritual. With a deep-rooted sense of honor and loyalty, members displayed their allegiances and commitment through painful tattoos and the severing of fingers, symbolic acts that demonstrated their dedication to the organization. Kyoto, with his dignified demeanor and unwavering loyalty, embodied the essence of the Yakuza code. But the Yakuza world was not without its controversies and contradictions. While the organization operated in the shadows, it also existed out in the open, with publicly listed headquarters, business cards, and even fan magazines. This unique blend of criminality and visibility made the Yakuza a subject of fascination and intrigue for many. Kyoto's reputation extended beyond the Yakuza world. He was known for his involvement in various community activities, often acting as a mediator and peacemaker. Despite his criminal affiliations, Kyoto was respected by some as a figure who could maintain order and resolve conflicts in a way that the authorities often struggled to do. However, Kyoto's position of power and influence also made him a target for rival gangs and individuals seeking to undermine his authority. This would ultimately lead to the shocking events that unfolded in September 2007, when Kyoto was brutally kidnapped, plunging the Yakuza world into chaos and setting in motion a chain of events that would have far-reaching consequences. It was a hot night in September when Kyoto found himself at the mercy of a group of ruthless criminals. Posing as delivery men, they gained access to Kyoto's residence, only to unleash a wave of violence upon him and his maid. With no regard for his status or the code of honor that governed the Yakuza world, they subjected Kyoto to a brutal beating before dragging him outside into his own garden. To add insult to injury, they ransacked Kyoto's residence, making off with several million yen in cash from a safe. This brazen act of theft further demonstrated the criminals' disregard for the Yakuza code and their willingness to exploit their victim for personal gain. Blindfolded and beaten, Kyoto was thrown into the back of a car and driven away from his home, his captors showing no mercy or respect for his status within the organization. After what felt like an eternity, the car finally came to a stop, and Kyoto was unceremoniously dragged into a room somewhere in an old, decrepit house. Stripped of his dignity and his clothes, he was subjected to relentless beatings over and over again. The kidnappers, devoid of any humanity, reveled in their sadistic actions, taking pleasure in inflicting pain upon their captive. But the torment did not end there. The kidnappers, driven by a perverse desire to humiliate Kyoto, resorted to even more degrading acts. They filmed the torture, capturing every agonizing moment on tape. In a sickening display of power and control, they sodomized Kyoto with a vibrator, further violating his dignity and capturing it all on film. The kidnappers, aware of the Yakuza's aversion to involving the police, used this knowledge to their advantage. In their ransom note, they warned Kyoto's organization against seeking help from the authorities or attempting to track them down. They made it clear that any such actions would result in the release of the videotape, a move that would forever tarnish Kyoto's reputation and bring shame upon the Yakuza world. Kyoto's second-in-command, Kazuo Uchibori, faced an agonizing decision. As the person responsible for handling the organization's affairs, he had no choice but to comply with the kidnappers' demands. Kyoto was not only his Oyabun, his leader, but his wife was also related to Kyoto, making it a more personal issue. The ransom money, a staggering 50 million yen, was gathered and delivered to the designated spot. Hours later, Kyoto was finally set free. Angry, hurt, and at a loss as to what he should do, he sought solace and guidance from his brother in the Inagawa Kai, Nobuyuki Kanazawa, also known as the Coach. Kanazawa, known for his calm demeanor and strategic thinking, promised to investigate the matter discreetly and efficiently, vowing to bring those responsible to justice. The coach wasted no time in assembling a team to uncover the truth behind Kyota's kidnapping. At the forefront of this effort was Makoto Saigo, also known as Tsunami, a former bodyguard and leader of the Saigo Gumi. Tsunami, with his unpredictable nature and whirlwind of destruction, was the perfect ally in this quest for justice. Their investigation led them down a treacherous path as they sought to identify the perpetrators of the crime. The coach had a hunch that the kidnappers were likely other Yakuza, possibly from a rival gang or individuals on the periphery of the underworld. There was even a chilling possibility that the culprits could be members of their own organization, a notion that no one wanted to consider seriously. To unravel the mystery, Tsunami and his crew embarked on a meticulous survey of the area near the Hatano intersection, where Kyoto had heard the distinctive chimes of a nearby school during his captivity. They recorded the sounds of every chime at every school, painstakingly analyzing the recordings in search of a clue. Kyoto, with his keen memory, listened intently, hoping to recognize the sound that had haunted him during his ordeal. Their efforts paid off when Kyoto identified the chime of a particular school, the only one in the area using that melody. Armed with this crucial information, Tsunami estimated that the chime could only be heard within a 2-kilometer radius. The team began conducting inquiries, going from house to house, searching for any Yakuza living in the vicinity. Their investigation led them to a suspect, a low-ranking member of the Inagawa Kai Odawara Gumi Shugetsu family. The Shugetsu family, with its 50 members and territory in Tokyo and Kanagawa Prefecture, became the focus of their scrutiny. Tsunami reported back to the coach, cautioning that the suspect may be unrelated to the crime, but the coach was resolute in his decision. He instructed Tsunami to bring the suspect in for questioning, believing that his reaction would reveal the truth. Tsunami, accompanied by his goons, paid a visit to the suspect's house, where they interrogated him. Through skillful questioning, Tsunami uncovered details that only the criminal would know, confirming the suspect's involvement in the kidnapping. With this breakthrough, Tsunami reported back to the coach, who was not as jubilant as expected. During their investigations, they were able to discover that Kenzo Arai, the leader of the Shigetsu family and a friend of Coach, was the mastermind. When he was confronted, they let him know he knew what to do. Kenzo Arai, acknowledging his guilt, confessed that his actions were solely driven by financial motives and not personal vendettas. Following a tense confrontation with Coach, Kenzo engaged in a heated dispute with his second-in-command, culminating in a fatal shooting. Subsequently, he proceeded to his residence, instructing his subordinates to stand by at the gate. In a final desperate plea, Kenzo called Coach, beseeching him to spare the remaining accomplices, a plea to which Coach acquiesced. After concluding the call, Kenzo tragically took his own life with a self-inflicted gunshot wound from his revolver. In Japanese and samurai culture, suicide, also known as seppuku or harakiri, was considered an honorable way for a samurai to take responsibility for a grave mistake. To Coach and Kenzo, this was the most honorable way for Kenzo to rewrite his wrong. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you liked it and want to watch more like this, click on the cards on your screen.